Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 2nd of September, 2024. Welcome to the show. This is Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. So, on with the show. Today we've got a lot to get through because Parliament goes back this morning and there's a lot for Labour to do. But before we get into that, I'm going to say a big hello to everyone in the chat. If you'd like to join the chat, you are very welcome to do so, but obviously be respectful, don't be a dick. And if you'd like to join the chat and you're not part of it yet, just subscribe to the channel. That's all you need to do. Just I'll do my big subscribe thing. Subscribe, and then you can join in. And but don't be disrespectful, don't be racist, don't be bigoted, don't be transphobic, or we will kick you. Well, you'll still be able to watch, but you won't be able to do anything. You'll be like a eunuch. You'll be like a YouTube eunuch. Anyway, right. So we're going to be talking a little bit after saying hello to Caroline and Viv and Sonic Shadow and Leonora's embroidered jewellery. Leonora's embroidery journey. God, I read that wrong, didn't I? And Michael is in there as well. We've got Reagan Elite. Hello. We've also got Yoni and Scott and some others. So all good. Sitch Monkey says, hey, managed to catch the stream before work. Hi, Graham. Hello. How you doing? So we're going to be talking today a bit about what Labour has ahead of it in its legislative agenda. There's a lot going on just this week. So on Wednesday, the final report into the tragedy at Grenfell, in which 72 people were killed because of just an absolute cavalcade, an avalanche of failings from the building contractors, local authority, the government in general. The whole thing was just a massive, horrific F-up. And unlike in Australia, where all of this dangerous cladding has been taken off the buildings that had this dangerous cladding on in the wake of the Grenfell tragedy, that's not happened here. And a lot of the times, people who should be able to not live in fear of, the outside of their building going up like a firecracker, they're being told that they have to pay to get rid of the cladding that someone put on the front of their flat, like while they were living there or whatever. Like, they didn't pay for that. They didn't say, I want some flammable cladding, please, put on the outside of this building. I want to turn this building into a death trap. And the Australian government give them their credit in this respect. They've said, oh, well, we need to get rid of this because it's a human health hazard. In Britain, no. Where's the money? We need to make money. We need money. More money. I'll not get paid for this. Oh, I'm not doing it then. Great. That happens on Wednesday. So obviously there'll be fallout from that, and recommendations made, and a commitment that Labour are going to have to make to the survivors and the bereaved to fulfil all of the recommendations that will come out from that report. So hopefully that'll happen all on Wednesday. School inspections. So this is big news today. Bridget Phillipson, who is the Education Minister now, Secretary of State for Education even, she said that they're doing away with immediate effect with the one-word reviews from Ofsted, which were always ridiculous. I mean, imagine if you bought Empire magazine and all the movies that reviewed that week, it just said either outstanding or satisfactory or could do better if it tried. It's a terrible system, which led to the unfortunate taking over her own life of a head teacher called Ruth Perry. And it's ridiculous. One thing I'd like to add about Ofsted, okay? Well, two things, right? First of all, because if you're a regular to this channel, you know how I feel about private schools. So, private schools don't need to be inspected by Ofsted. They can be, but they don't have to be. The other thing is, the person in charge of Ofsted went to private school. I'll say again, private schools don't need to be inspected by Ofsted. And the head of Ofsted went to a private school. Do you see the problem there? Do you see? It's like putting a doctor who's only worked in a private medical practice in charge of the NHS. Do you see the problem there? Moving on. So we've got school inspectors. We've got winter fuel payments. So this is the big thing that the left and the right are currently trying to clobber Labour with, because they're going to take away the winter fuel payments. I mean, never mind the fact that the actual cost of keeping our houses home has quadrupled in recent years because of Tory mismanagement of our energy supply. We could have been energy self-sufficient by now, by 2024, and I really mean that. That's not some naive green bullshit, oh yeah, we're just going to say that this can happen. No, it could have genuinely happened if the Tories have been, 14 years, actually behind the green energy revolution. We could have been energy self-sufficient, which means that everyone's bills would be lower. But when we talk about the winter fuel payments, they're not taking them away from everyone, they're making them means tested. So they're taking them away from the millionaires. And people go, well, what about some granny who lives in Hackney and it's not her fault that her property is now worth 1.5 million, but she's on the state pension? And I'm like, sell the house, love. Can't take it with you. Sell the house, downsize, get a little cottage somewhere that's nice, a bungalow or something, for £250,000, and then you'll have £1.25 million to, go on a cruise every day for the rest of your life. Go to Vegas, go enjoy what's left of your life. You can't take it with you. Go, have fun, frolic. We had the same argument about why the poll tax was a good idea. And this is an interesting thing. So when some people who consider themselves progressive are saying, well, what about these people who live in £1 million houses in London? And I'm like, okay, sell them. And they're like, oh, that's a bit of hassle. When the poll tax came out, one of the reasons why, it was called the community charge at the time, back in 1990. And there were riots. I mean, there were riots in Kent. That's how much people didn't like the poll tax. But the excuse was that the old system, the council tax system at the time, was unfair because you could have someone who was living in a massive house and they'd have to pay loads more than someone living in a small house. And I'm sitting there going, why is that unfair? You're living in a big house. Seriously? Do you need that bigger house if you're one person living on your own? I mean, it's not like there's a housing shortage or nothing. Anyway, if you have a house that's worth £24 million opposite Buckingham Palace, I do not think that you should be paying one of the lowest council taxes in the country. But they are. Check it out. Go and look it up if you don't believe me. They're paying less than you are. I guarantee it. On those absolutely insane mansions in Victoria opposite Buckingham Palace. Okay, all right, moving on. So that's the winter fuel payments. I mean, if people are eligible for pension credit, they will get the winter fuel allowance. Plus, there are lots of people who are eligible for pension credit who don't realise that they are eligible. So hopefully this will get the million or so people who don't realise that they can have this to actually apply and get it. And someone's probably going to say in the comments, well, Graham, you're a big proponent of universal basic income, in which all the millionaires in the country will get £11,800 a year. Yes, but they'll be also taxed a lot more hand in hand with that. And it's a holistic thing. It's not like there's pensioners now who aren't paying any tax really because they've got no income apart from their pensions, and their pensions are doing quite nicely. They're triple locked by the old Tory administration, and yeah, they're doing great. One of the things that I've mentioned before on this channel, but a couple of years ago, I did a few runs over to the border with Ukraine, and I took supplies over there, medical supplies, humanitarian supplies, and for the refugee centre on the border, and then we would pick up some refugees and take them to where they needed to go in Germany, in the Netherlands, or in the UK. And in the case of refugees that we brought to the UK, I remember driving. We drove up through. I think we stopped along the way in. I've got fluff on me top. We stopped along the way just after we got out the Channel Tunnel. And then we were driving up, and we stopped a couple of times to get some food because there were kids, and you couldn't drive forever. And I remember one of the women saying to me, like, how come all your old people are so rich? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's looking around, and she said, look, they're all driving brand new Mercedes and BMWs. In my country, the old people are poor. And I'm like, well, there are a lot of poor older people in this country, but there's also one in five pensioners are millionaires. So, winter fuel payments. Anyway, so, and then there is going to be a load of legislation that has to go ahead, obviously, because that's what governments are there to do. And Labour have a mandate. They have the tools. They have the talent, to quote Ghostbusters. They've got this huge majority in Parliament. Don't forget, now over 500 MPs in Parliament claim to be progressive. We need to remind them of that sometimes, but that's alone is pretty cool. So what's happening in terms of legislative agenda, easy for you to say, is first of all nationalisation of the railways. So that's going to be a bill that's going to be brought forward today or tomorrow. We're also going to have the Budget Responsibility Bill, which is going to stop Tories doing Tory things next time they're in power. Like, I don't know, an uncosted mini budget that spooks the market so much it blows a £425 billion black hole in our pension funds. There's going to be statements made about the riots over the summer as well. So, lots of things to, I guess, look forward to. I don't know. It's a bit doom and gloom here in Durham. It's very foggy. It's very cloudy. I've been relegated down into the basement. I'm in a corner of the basement because we're having some work done in the house. I would like a brand new studio, please, but no, we're not getting that, unfortunately. It's going to hopefully be for this channel, just to go on a little tangent. Hopefully we're going to have a lot more videos going up over the next few weeks, and we're going to see a return to for how we fix Britain. We're going to be doing some more quizzes. We're going to make sure we're going to put out more episodes of The Intersection and other shows, and a lot more Moments of Truth, which are the pre-recorded bits on this channel that unfortunately fell by the wayside in the run-up to the election because there was a lot of other things to be getting on with. So, Reagan Leeds in the chat there, pimping out my channel. Thank you very much. We got Gary Arnold saying, "Power to the people still gets me." Julian Lennon, John Lennon, even Julian Lennon. That's his kid, isn't it? Stephen Wallace says, "Of course you can. Being in favour of a system doesn't prevent wanting improvement to what exists." Well, exactly. It's not all or nothing, and in any kind of organisation, don't forget, the government in this country are just big organisations, if you want to think of them that way. You tend to find that there's a lot of these big corporations that existed back in the day, and then they got taken over by some young, whiz kid with crazy ideas, and the companies went bankrupt. So you got this sort of pull between idiots turning up and deciding, let's do all this stuff that doesn't actually work, like what happened with Marconi and ICI and a bunch of other companies that have gone by the wayside in recent years. But then you've also got the other problem, which is that you get sort of the older generation, not all old people, who have run the company for years, who are very resistant to change, especially technology comes and they just don't change with technology in time, and they come a cropper. I'm looking at you, Kodak and Blockbuster. Gareth T, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, my friend. Morning, Graham. Hopefully we'll get some long overdue reform for the prisons, especially some decent equipment and staff. Yes, I'm sure you are decent staff, Gareth, but yeah, that would be good. There's so much to do. I mean, there is an absolute avalanche of expectations on this new Labour government to get to GSD, get shit done. But thank you very much for that, Gareth. Janice saying, here in France, Social Security use your tax returns to work out if you're entitled to help with fuel payments. That's a great way of doing it. Because if you're self-employed, what you can do is pay yourself dividends. And this is a way of avoiding tax, because you don't pay tax on dividends like you do on earnings. And so you just say, well, I only earned £11,000 this year, and then I got £500,000 in dividends. So you don't pay much tax on that. And these people came a cropper, and I know some self-employed people just fell through the net, so to speak. So this banging, like I say, we're having some work done. Me and Phil are going to be shouting over work being done in our respective homes over the next week or so. So apologies. Although Phil was saying like 3 months or so, 3 months of drilling, which is going to be like bloody hell. We've got another super chat. Thank you very much to Captain Bart Roberts there. This pensioner is giving you some love. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Captain Bart Roberts. Going back to the single, to self-employed people. So you have people who ran their own businesses or were self-employed, and they've been essentially fiddling the books for a long time, so they didn't have to pay as much tax as they otherwise would have done. But they came a cropper when COVID happened, because the amount that you got for COVID relief was based on how much tax you had paid in the previous tax year. So if you paid bugger all tax, you got bugger all relief. And I know, look, I'm sure there's going to be someone watching this who actually got hugely done over by this whole thing. But I'm not addressing you, and I'm sorry that happened. But the people who were taking the piss, they came a cropper, because they were like, oh, why have I only got like $3,000 to live on for the next 6 months? Well, it's because that's all you paid in tax, mate. So, what can you do? Yes. Emma says, if you're still working away as self-employed at 30, then frankly have the allowance, you've earned it. Well, Emma, my mum is 75. She's still working full-time in the community college in Liverpool. So... And I don't think she can retire, just because of the current the fiscal situation of the nation and the city of Liverpool. Alvone says, seriously, after the damage the Tories have done in power, there needs to be new red lines on what a government could do. And if it breaks those, then it gets removed or something. Yeah, I think that's going to be the fiscal responsibility, the Budgetary Responsibility Act that Labour are talking about bringing in. Samantha is saying the Tories helped make this £20 billion black hole and then covered up that there was one, so the party funds should be used to help fill it. It's a good point, actually. And there's so many things that, like, I want to see done immediately. So I want to get back into the EU. I make no secret about this. However, I am realistic in that we have a long way to go before we can rejoin the EU. And this isn't just about getting the EU to agree to have us back. This is about getting the people of the United Kingdom to agree, or at least a super majority of them to agree, that leaving the EU is a terrible idea and we shouldn't have done it and we need to go back in. In order to do that, we need to get Conservative voters to realise that, and Brexit voters, people who actually voted for it, to go, I made a mistake. And, it's one of those things in life. A lot of people don't like admitting they made a mistake because they see it as like weakness. It's one of those foibles in life that we have that are actually really, really dangerous. Not wanting to admit when we've made a mistake, not wanting to go to the doctors. Men are particularly susceptible for this one. I don't want to go to the doctors because it's a sign of weakness. And you're like, well, you really should go get that checked out, because if you don't, it could be something awful and then you'll die. So go get it checked out. It's free. I know it's a bit of a hassle getting an appointment these days, but it's still free. Go do it. We've got Labour-like red lines. Nick, going back to the EU. So what I would like to see is us going back into the EU, but in order to do that, we need to get people who voted for Brexit, on our side, get them to vote for Europe instead. But in order to do that, we need to bring the press in line in terms of, we need to make sure they stop lying. We need to stop. They stop lying all the time. Can you just stop the lies? Just that's it. That's the rule. No more lies, please. If you lie in your newspaper and it's the front page lie, then for 5 days you have to print, we were lying. We are liars. We're a bunch of frigging liars every day for 5 days on the front page using the same sized text as you did for the lie. No retraction on page 57 in the corner in little letters 3 months later. Oh yeah, who lied about that? No, that wasn't true. And you look at how much money these newspapers have got to spend on covering shit up. So I think Murdoch's News International has spent over £1 billion, it's billion with a B, paying off people whose phones they hacked because they don't want to go to court. And then you have this trap that Hugh Grant was unwilling to fall into, which was that if you are offered £10 million by the lawyers representing News International, say, and you say, no, I want to take you to court because it's the principle that matters, and then you go to court and you are given by the you found that you're absolutely, you've got them bang to rights. They hacked your phone, they stole information, they ruined your life, defamation, slander, libel, whatever. But you're awarded £9,999,999.99, so 1 penny less than the initial offer from the News International lawyers. You have to pay for all of the legal costs. So you'll end up paying News International lawyers millions of pounds, even though you won the case. And they use this as a trap to stop, because they'll use the most expensive lawyers. They'll say this is going to cost you an absolute fortune if you don't get exactly how more than what we've offered. And it's a mechanism that's supposed to stop things from going to court that could be settled out of court. But this is something that I think needs to be settled in court. And it's something I'm hoping that Prince Harry, because he's so rich, that he can just go, sod it, I'm not going to take the offer. I'm going to take them to court all the way and get them banged to rights. Anyway, so if you imagine it like, one thing's got to be done before the other things. It's like building a house. You've got to do the foundations first. The foundations for getting us back into the EU is press reform. I know that sounds a bit mad, but there you go. We need press reform desperately in this country right now. And once that's through, we also need, or maybe, in tandem, in parallel, we need reforms to what goes out on the internet. Famously, X, Twitter, was banned this weekend by a judge in Brazil. So it's now banned in Brazil. Fantastic. Well done, Brazil. Cheers. Cheers to you, Brazil. Bom dia. Fantastic. Good move all round there. I appreciate that. The Daily Mail is one of the most read news sources in the world, and all they print is a cacophony of celebrity tittle tattle and gossip, and then this, lies. I'm not trying to explain it any better than that, but it's just bullshit. Right-wing fascist bullshit, and they need to be reined in, and we can't be having these billionaire non-doms like Lord Rothermere and that Murdoch creep. He's not even a non-dom. He lives thousands of miles away, having so much power over the generally not all old people. Thanks, Captain Bart Roberts. Not all old people, but like a big section of older people have been radicalized into becoming effectively terrorists and supporting things like Nigel Farage and Elon Musk, who then go out and cause riots where people are terrorized, where communities are left in a state of terror. I don't think that should be allowed, in the same way that you can't radicalize children to become part of your cult or religion or whatever, and then get them to go around terrorizing people. That's not allowed. Why is it different to the other end of the spectrum? Like, if you are a con artist, you are way more likely to be able to con someone who's a bit older than someone who's sort of younger and more tech savvy and understands fishing expeditions and all the different scams on the internet and all that kind of stuff. Just saying. Right, we've got 5 minutes left. I'm just going to read a few more bit of a chat. Johnny is saying X is banned in Brazil. Woo! Woo! And Captain Bart Roberts, he used to drink with a guy called Bob Copper. I used to get, I'll get called from the village club. Bob and Bill are singing, "Can you take them home?" I had no idea what that's referring to, but I love it. And Stephanie, I thought it was the loser pays our courts. Stephanie, yeah, normally that's what happens. But in the cases of where you're going to a civil case and you're taking them to court for, an amount of money, reparations, if you like, if it's a penny less that they get awarded by the judge, you have to pay all their costs. I know it seems like a daft system. It kind of makes sense in that we don't want to clog up our courts. And if something can be settled out of the courts, that's obviously better for our legal system. However, it allows these newspapers to absolutely monumentally, royally take the piss. I'm going to jump over to the papers now. I think, should we go over to the papers? Oh no, I've got a super chat. Thank you very much to Ivan Ambrose for the tenner. Cheers, mate. I know what my priority is, and people need to understand it. This is about people with disabilities, including people with autism, and sick and tired of this never being talked about enough. Okay, yeah, Ivan, I'll take that. I absolutely 100% agree with you. The ableist agenda of the Tory government was an absolute bloody disgrace, and they made it so that if you are, physically or mentally having problems, you're either left to sort things out for yourself, or just part of a system that just does not cater for you in any way, shape, or form. And the government really needs to address this now. I think that Labour were talking more about mental health in the run-up to the election, not before the actual election was announced and stuff, because they were talking about getting mental health practitioners into GPs and things like that. And as someone who is waiting, and has been waiting for nearly a year for a diagnosis of ADHD, which... like, they give you a form to fill out. Like, seriously, it's just like, do you do these things? Yes. Okay. Yeah, it would take 5 minutes for any medical practitioner to look at that and go, yeah, you've got ADHD. And then I could get support put in place that I need in order to do the shit I need to do to get on with my life. So, yeah, I absolutely. And I think this is going to be part and parcel of what Wes Streeting is going to do for the NHS. Unfortunately, Wes Streeting has not been showering himself in glory for the last few months, especially when he's grabbed the CAS report and ran with it. We'll see. But I do think that should be a priority as well, Ivan. You've got my absolute 100% agreement on that. Okay, quick over to the papers, because there's some funny shit in here. Some won't pay. See what they've done there? Oasis, because they had a song called "Some Might Say," so they changed it. It's a pun. Fans and MPs slam ticket price hike. So you know how sorry about the banging. You know how Uber has surge pricing, so that if there's like suddenly loads of people want an Uber, instead of paying £9.49 to get home, you're suddenly paying £49.49. You're like, how the hell? Why is it so expensive? So, well, surge pricing, the way it works. If there's lots of people interested, the price goes up. Okay, so they're doing that with tickets. So if lots of people want tickets, they put the prices of the tickets up. You don't get anything extra. You don't get a VIP box. You don't get a spot at the side of the stage. It's just, and you got 10 seconds to make the decision. On the Ticketmaster website, 10 seconds, you see it clicking down. Do you want these tickets of £349 each for this gig in a field in Manchester? It's probably going to rain. Tick. Made your decision yet? You got to call your friends and say, can you afford this? You got to... Absolute disgrace. And there is going to be a consultation about reselling tickets in the autumn, which is going to be headed up by Johnny Reynolds from who is Secretary of State for Business and Trade, and I'm going to try and be very involved in this, because I don't think it's just touts that need to be taken out. Ticketmaster and C-Tickets and these other ticket firms that are taking, like, literally, if you bought an Oasis ticket for 350 quid, at least 75 of that was going to Ticketmaster. 75 of that. I could go to every night of a tour of a band in the 90s for 75 quid. And now this is for one gig, and it's going to admin to Ticketmaster, which is one of the biggest companies in the world now. I'm sorry. I think it's an absolute disgrace, and I feel sorry for all the people who wanted to go and see Oasis but couldn't afford it. And you've seen now that a lot of the working class people who think that Oasis are awesome were priced out of it, and it's just going to be full of older people who'll turn up with personalised number plates on their cars, probably. So, moving on. Oh, got a super chat from One Angry Pagan before we move on. I've got to go in a minute. It's actually 1 minute past 10. I will. Ooh, I've got rid of the chat window instead. Sorry, I meant to do that. There you go, super chat. One Angry Pagan. Mozzie's number have gone up due to poor eco management. That's no good, says one. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's no good. One Angry Pagan making a good point there about Mozzie's. Not great for humans, especially when they go around flying around and transmitting different vectors to humans. Proof there's no God. What are you doing today, God? I'm designing a flying hypodermic needle. Why? I don't know. But, that dengue fever isn't going to just, get around on its own. Needs some kind of way of getting from victim to victim. Malaria, yellow fever, dengue fever, all of it. Bring it on. Elephantitis. Elephantitis is spread by mosquitoes. Because they're flying hypodermic needles. Anyway, not good. Another thing that's happening with climate change. Obviously something else that Labour are having to tackle. And they seem to be hitting the ground running on that. I mean, the first thing they did as soon as they were elected was get rid of the effective ban on onshore wind farms. Like I say, if Labour had been in for the last 14 years instead of the bloody Tories, I don't think we'd have an energy crisis. I don't think we're having a winter fuel crisis. I don't think we're having a crisis in the NHS. I mean, things might not be perfect. I'm not that deluded, but they'll be a damn sight better than they have been under the Conservatives. We'll still be part of the EU because that wouldn't have been the thing that Labour would have gone for. Like, should we have a referendum about the EU? No. And if we had that, we would have had the leader of Labour actually, getting it out there that we should stay in the EU, and it's better for working people to stay in the EU. And making those dickheads in unite, like Len McCluskey and our friend from the RMT union, who Mick Littens, who thinks that the EU is this terrible thing that goes around giving workers' rights and giving lots of money to cities like Liverpool that really need it. Labour is scaring off big business. Sudden collapse in UK economy. Survey of bosses reveals tax rises and workplace reform loom. Some bollocks there. Some absolute bollocks from the Daily Mail. Brad Pitt there with his new girlfriend who's half his age. That's nice. And then we've got Daily Express. How ludicrous. Labour axed winter fuel to help stop run on the pound. This was the excuse that was presented yesterday by who was it? It was Lucy Powell. Sorry, I couldn't read that. I was too small. I had to make it big for me old eyes. And there's some terrible news coming from East Germany where they have elected Nazis because it went so well the first time. Anyway, and then there's the 6 people who died. There was supposed to be some kind of operation to rescue hostages, and they ended up all being murdered horribly instead because the Israeli government refused to negotiate with Hamas for the release of hostages. So the hostages are just getting killed left, right, and centre. There were big, massive protests yesterday in Israel about this, about like, can you just get a peace agreement, please? We want these people to come home, not in boxes. Protesters turn on Netanyahu in fury over deaths of 6 hostages, which is totally his fault. We've got Gail Porter there on in the Guardian, who famously suffers from alopecia. And she's telling her story about addictions and anorexia and things like that, and how she's overcome that. So it's kind of like it's a bit of a harrowing read, but it's got a nice message at the end. Gail's still with us, thank God. Eyewitness behind enemy lines with Zelensky's forces on the main road to Russia. Tanks, some of them British, trundle forward in the Russian town of Sudza. Ukrainian troops dig in and prepare for a counterattack. Russians, young and old, under occupation, say none of us wanted this war. A Ukrainian soldier vows, I will carry on until I die or we win. So just some of the extraordinary scenes captured by reporter Askold Krushelensky. Probably said that wrong, sorry. Yeah, I mean, what Ukraine is doing right now is absolutely remarkable, taking the fight to the Russians. It'll go down in the annals of history, I hope, as one of the best strategic moves ever taken in this kind of theatre of war, where a country is invaded by another country. And so that country goes, well, sod you, I'm going to invade your country instead. So there you go. Ivan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, mate. More good action from Labour, the Tory one, where judgments are from Ofsted have been stopped. They have indeed, which is fantastic. Again, looking at the mental health of teachers, head teachers, having to deal with this Ofsted bullshit where, like I say, it's run by a woman who's privately educated. Private schools don't have to go through this shit. It's a choice whether they do or not, which means there's a huge safeguarding issue in private schools, but that's a discussion for another day. Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be now 4 categories, I think, and there's going to be a bit more information about, what instead of it just being one word, it's going to be, things that can be improved upon in that particular school. I think that they should do away with the league tables. I don't think they're helpful. I think it means that bad schools get worse, and that good schools suck up all the rich pupils whose parents can afford private tutors, etc., to get them to pass the exam or whatever they need to do to get into that school, or they can afford to move to that area. That whole thing with catchment areas and house prices going up near the good school, that needs to end. I think what should be published is an LEA league table. So you would have the Liverpool LEA, Manchester LEA, and you'd say, areas where they need to improve, rather than specific schools. However, there could still be a report into specific schools, but that's only shared with the people who work for the LEA, work for the government in education, so they know, which schools need a bit more support. To actually have it as a league table that's published so anyone can see, I think is not a great idea. I think that was a Labour idea, wasn't it? Did that come on under Tony Blair? Shit idea, Tony Blair. Tony privately educated Blair, whatever. As pupils return to class, race hate surge in schools. This is another bad news story from the Daily Mirror. And we've also got United getting humiliated by Liverpool, which is quite funny. And then one word Ofsted rating scrapped there. And we've got Ocean's 11, well, at least 2 of them, so Ocean's 2. We've got George Clooney and Brad Pitt, who are starring in a movie together. Yay. Alternative for Germany wins its first state poll as voters quit centre ground. I don't think you can go that far to say, they're quitting the centre ground. I mean, we saw a big resurgence to the centre ground in the last election in the UK. There was a big move away from the far right in France, although, I mean, we're going to be talking about what's happening in France on Geoscope tomorrow. It's a bit of a shit show. I'm not going to lie, but we will be talking about that. And then grade big U-turn on schools. That's the one word Ofsted statement scrapped immediately, says the Metro. So there you go. I think that's something that most people will support. I don't think there's that many people who are like, no, we need one word to describe what's happening for the 1,200 pupils in this school. And all of the teachers, one word, just describe them all. Yeah. Nick says, in theory, with enough political will on the UKG side, the 4 freedoms could be fully reciprocated within the existing TCA, but Starmer's too busy pandering to the dwindling Brexit diehards and the Daily Mail. No, I don't think you're too wrong there, Nick, but we have to renegotiate our Brexit deal anyway in 2026. Labour are going to be doing that renegotiation. And I think it's up to us to ensure that we talk to as many people as we can about the fact that Brexit isn't going so well. I know it's not a hot button issue anymore, but now that tempers have cooled down a little bit on the other side, I assume, I hope, people aren't going to be so wedded to the idea, especially, and I think this is going to be a bit of a big thing when it actually happens, when the ETIAS system comes in, the electronic visa waiver system comes in, the travel authorization system next year or whenever it's supposed to come in this year, but they keep knocking it back. But when it does come in, that's going to upset a lot of people in a way that they hadn't really realised, they hadn't factored in for. In the same way that a lot of people didn't factor in, you'd only be able to spend 90 days in every 180 in our own continent because of Brexit until it actually happened. You had a lot of people belly aching about it, and a lot of people who lived in Spain going, "What? I can't live in Spain anymore, but I voted for Brexit to get rid of all these foreigners." And it's like, you literally live in another country, but whatever. Who don't bother to learn a word of English, and they lived in Spain for 10 years and don't know any Spanish. Alan, the inquirer, says, trouble with league tables is that it pretends the parents have a choice. It's a struggle to get your child in the first choice anyhow. That's very true. Stephanie says, the old system where the local council used to inspect schools with the intention of supporting and improving them. Yep. And Viv says, is the racist hate in schools due to social media and the riot? We need a conversation about that. Yep, I completely agree. We need a conversation about that. And Acro Dave says, I can describe Ofsted in 2 words. The second one is off. And yes, I recall a teacher in my school in the 90s in our first Ofsted examination. So no, it must have been the Tories who brought in Ofsted examinations, because it was happening when I was in school. He said Ofsted can Ofsted off. Johan says, but Graham, English abroad aren't foreigners, they're expats. How could you forget? Oh, yeah, sorry old chap. Yeah, we're not immigrants, we're not dirty immigrants. No, we're just seeking asylum away from all the foreigners in our own country. What, so you asylum seekers? Okay. Nick says the 26th review is just that, a review, not a renegotiation. Focus needs to shift from it just being a review, but that will involve the red lines being ditched. Yeah, I think that there is a lot of scope for Labour to be moving much more towards the European Union, but that has to be led by us. That has to be the people, saying to them, writing to your MP, saying, listen, I'm not happy about the situation. Things could be better. Get us back into, if not the single market, which would be wonderful, the outer orbit of the single market, which Macron was supposed to be pushing forward. Unfortunately, I think Macron's got his own problems going on at home, so I don't know how interested he's going to be in getting England, getting Britain and Ukraine and the like into an outer orbit of the EU. I thought there was no negotiating the TCA. The 2026 things is just a review, isn't it? No, I mean, it is a review, but like the EU's not stupid. I mean, they will use opportunities to make things better for their own citizens. And at the moment, the deal's not that great. It's not that great for us. It's not really that great for them. So if they've got an opportunity to improve it, they will improve it. I mean, the idea that the EU just can't get anything done is a nonsense. It's got dozens of brilliant trade deals all over the world. And yeah, it doesn't have a trade deal with America because America are bolshy bastards and they're very protectionist, and it's very difficult to get that, get a deal that's actually beneficial to Europe and to America. America's such a bully. It just wants to go around saying, here's the trade deal, bloody sign it, sign that NAFTA deal, sign it, Mexico. And Mexico goes, okay, America. And it's shit for Mexico, but it's fantastic for America. Ivan says, as already stated, I know what my priority is and absolutely resolute with it. People with disabilities are fed up of being ignored. People with disabilities matter. Yeah, Ivan, I couldn't agree more. Mate. And David saying, Graham, Ofsted system is sick in UK. Someone told me that schools in the UK cheat about the results of their exams just to get the Ofsted standard year by year. Wouldn't surprise me. One Angry Pagan says a renegotiation of the TCA won't happen until after the review. Plus, the EU doesn't seem to be amiable to opening such talks with us till we actually fulfil our end of the Brexit deal. There's a lot to be done. I'm just saying that the door is open. Like the EU hasn't said, right, that's it forever now. That's our relationship for we've already rejoined Horizon. There's the possibility of rejoining Erasmus. There's the integration with our public transport systems, all that kind of stuff. Still to play for, and I hope that we do. I hope that we keep making steps back towards our natural home in the European Union, because we're part of Europe, and why would we not be part of the biggest and most successful trading union in Earth's history? Here's a scary thought. What if the Brexit vote was fixed by Putin? Liebchen, it was. Okay, so I'm definitely going to go now. I've gone 15 minutes over time. Bit of a bumper show this morning. But I'll leave you in the safe capable hands of James O'Brien. I'm sure he's finishing his opening monologue about now. And I'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight for Stateside, where we'll be raking through what's been going on in the US. You might not be as interested in that as you are in British politics, but it's still interesting things going on. And obviously, if Trump wins, things are going to get pretty shit pretty fast for all of us on this little blue marble of a planet. So, it matters. So please join us for that, live and interactive, as always, and your comments and everything, just, very, very welcome. And on that note, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the super chats. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.